This is a video for parents, so it explains the New Hampshire Special Education Procedural Safeguards. This is a document that has been created specially for parents and adult students with disabilities for them to understand their rights. It's a brief document that states parents' rights and adult students with disabilities' rights. So the document starts describing who is part of the IEP team. The IEP team is the group of people that gets together to decide on the students' special education needs and then make the major decisions. So parents are a full member of this team, and they have the right as any other member of the team in the school district. So what is the special education process? So the special education process to find a student as a student with a special need that is eligible for special education services, it has several steps. And the first step is identification. That means that anyone can refer a child if they suspect that this child might have a disability or this child needs special education. So once that identifies someone that might need special education, this referral needs to be made to the school district. If someone else than the parent refers a child, the parent should be notified immediately and in writing. So after this happens, there should be a meeting that should take place 15 days after and 15 business days after this referral has been received. In this meeting, the team reviews the situation and they decide if they should proceed with an evaluation to see if the student might or might not need or might not be eligible for special education services. So the team goes through a checklist, and if the student does not present any of those characteristics that might not disqualify, like another reason that the student might struggle academically, so they might think the student needs to be evaluated. And to be evaluated, it's very important that the parent's signature and the parents should sign a permission to test. And after this meeting, and in this meeting is this first special education meeting of the child, the parents should receive a written prior notice that is a summary of the decisions that the team has made at this point. If the team decides to go on with evaluation, the permission to test has been signed, and the school district has 60 days, and these are not business days, these are calendar days, to complete this evaluation. And this evaluation should have no cost for the family and should be conducted by trained, knowledgeable, and certified licensed evaluators. And if the district is not able to complete these tests or these evaluations within the 60 calendar days, and sometimes this happens when there is a spring break, or the student has been absent, or there are circumstances that prevent the school district to complete evaluations within these 60 days, the school district can request in writing permission from the parents to extend this period for 30 more days. Once the 60 days are up, there should be a meeting where the evaluations are reviewed. But before that, the parents should receive the copies of the assessment reports, and these should be sent home by U.S. mail. And unless parents said that they prefer another method, if the parents receive these evaluations and a summary of the evaluations, and they do not agree with them, they are allowed, or they can request a second opinion or second evaluation by an independent evaluator. And this second evaluation should have no cost for the family either. So after the evaluation, there is the meeting, and this meeting is called determination of eligibility. So the team uses that information that they gather to determine if the child is or is not eligible for special education and services. To be eligible, the child must have a disability, and they need to require special education services or related services to benefit from education. So every 3 years, the team will review the student's eligibility, and they might decide to reevaluate or get more information to determine if the student continues to be eligible for special education services. Once the student is found eligible for the first time, the team needs to develop an IEP. An IEP is an individualized educational plan, and this IEP should be completed at least 30 days after the student has been found eligible for special education. Okay, so we're talking about placement. And the placement, the law requires the students to be in the least restrictive environment. That means that they should be as much as possible in the general education setting, and they need to be pulled out the least amount of time that is necessary for the student to benefit from education. So the team will decide how many hours a week or a day the student will remain in the special education setting, and how much time the student needs to be pulled out for services. So that placement is really important, and the parents should give consent for this initial placement. And after this initial IP, the IP is reviewed once a year, and for this annual meeting, there should be a 10 days notice, and parents can bring anyone they decide for these meetings. Like they can bring someone that knows the child, or an advocate, or someone to assist the family. And the last step for the special education process in New Hampshire is the annual monitoring. So that means that every year, and every quarter or every semester, and my school is quarters, and we present progress reports where we inform the families how is the student doing in terms with their goals. And if there's any concern at any time, parents could request an IP meeting where the parents can, or anyone in the team by any means, they can bring up concerns or a topic to be discussed, and then this might end up in an IP amendment. So the next topic in the procedural safeguards is what is the written prior notice? The written prior notice is a document that tells the parents what has been decided or what has been discussed, and what actions the district proposes, what are the decisions, what were the options, and if this is an IP meeting, and it should state every single change in the IP. And also it needs to justify, and they have to say why these reasons, the reasons for the decisions, the reasons for every proposal, options, or if an option has been rejected, also it needs to specify why. So after the first referral meeting, every time the IP team meets and makes decisions, even though if it's not a meeting to change an IP, or there should be a written prior notice, and the parents should receive a written prior notice explaining. So we're going to talk now about parental consent. A parental consent is really, really important. So parents need to be fully informed and need to understand what's going on with their children or their child. So, for example, if there's an initial evaluation, they need to understand the steps, the procedures, and the time that this might take and what it entails. And so we need parents' consent and the parents to be fully informed and to sign on these documents that we are presenting to the parents. So you as a parent need to understand what you're being asked to sign. And for example, the initial provision for special education and related services, That means that we are preparing the first IP and what are the services going to be, all related services, and you need to understand what we're proposing. And we need your signature for that. For the determination or change of a disability classification, for example, if a student is eligible for special education services and a young age under the classification of the developmental delay, then at 9 years of age, that classification needs to be changed. And usually students move on to a different classification, could be like specific learning disability. So parents need to be informed of this. And if there's an annual renewal of the IP, if there's a placement, annual placement again on the IP, parents need to give their consent for every one of these, and releasing records as well. So there are some special circumstances, and this is very important for parents to understand. Once you receive an IP and you have been in a meeting and you have been discussing this IP, you will receive the IP and you will be requested to give your consent for the placement and to agree to the IP proposals. So you have 14 days to give this permission. If you do not sign the initial IP within 14 days, your child is not going to receive special education services, and this process will stop there. It won't move forward because the school cannot proceed without parents' permission in this case. However, if the school has made reasonable attempts to contact you, and they document this, for example, they have sent certified mail, they had left voice messages, they have sent emails, so the team move on with a annual review of the IP without the parent, or determination of change of disability classification. They can change services, and they can proceed to reevaluate the child. The only circumstances that we cannot do anything without the parent's consent is the initial evaluation, initial IP, and initial placement. So confidentiality, these procedural safeguards, they protect your child's personal information. So we need to be very careful as a school district of your child's personal information. And these documents should be protected, and there are files, and everyone that accesses the file, they need to document who is accessing these files and the reason why they're accessing your child's information. And usually there are like case managers, service providers, and general education teachers might have access to your student or your child's files. You as a parent, you are granted access to your child's files and records, and you can review the whole file of your child. And also, once your child turns 18, the rights are removed from the parents, and this adult student is the IP member there, and you as a parent might be invited to the IP meeting by the child. I mean, the student is the one that decides who's coming to the IP meeting on his behalf. So parents are not automatically invited anymore. They don't have rights over their child's education, and the parents have no access to students' records anymore once the student is an adult, unless the student consents. So what are the steps when there is a problem and there is a disagreement in the special education, or there are complaints? So if you as a parent, you feel that your child is not receiving special education services, or there are procedures that are not being followed, and you need to voice your concerns because you are your child's advocate. First person that usually you talk to is the case manager. And then you go to the building administrator, and then usually you go to the director of student services in the district, and then the superintendent. Usually, most disagreements and concerns are resolved in these stages, because parents are part of the team and decisions are being made with the parents. But there are some circumstances where parents or this in the school, they cannot agree on a certain topic. So this complaint can be initiated by the parent, or it can be initiated by the school as well. So they might communicate to the Bureau of Special Education in New Hampshire and the Department of Education that there is a disagreement here. They will try to invite both parties is to have a neutral conference with an impartial mediator. So to find somebody that has no interest, or there's no related to the family and they have no interest in the school district. So this person will review the files, going to listen to both parties, and it was going to make a recommendation. So the parties can decide to follow the recommendation of this mediator, or they can present a formal complaint and request a due process hearing. Once a due process hearing has been requested, the school district might bring a proposal to resolve. And if that doesn't go forward, there is an investigation. A person, there is a commissioner designated by the Department of Education, will give the person that presents the complaint opportunity to review the files and present corrections or additional information. So once this investigation has been concluded, the Commissioner of Education decides on actions, and so these commissioners determines what are the steps and what's going to happen next, or decides on one side or the other. So if this doesn't satisfy the parts, so there could be a request for consideration, and this could also go further into civil complaints. Hopefully, by all the steps that have been happening until this point, the differences might have been resolved. So as a parent, you should be involved in every step of the decision making concerning your child's special education needs. So these procedural safeguards hopefully will give you the tools for you to understand what your rights are and be an active member of your child's education.